Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story in which our OP was forbidden to build a garage, but he came up with an original way out of the situation. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Planning permission, you say? Behind my house, there's an area reserved for garages. Plans were drawn in 1968, and only 3 of the 18 allocated plots have a garage built. The remaining have a cement base, and we park there. As spaces are narrow, 2.4 meters wall to wall, and brick garages are expensive, I thought of having a pre-built one installed for a quarter of the cost. Someone on the same street saw me take measurements and asked if I was putting a garage up, said yes, to which they replied if I'd gotten planning permission. Confused, I said, "No, don't think I need. It turns out I do." To which he replied that he would then call them after I have the garage installed. After looking into it and confirming I do need to apply for planning permission at an extra cost, I was a bit annoyed. All I wanted was a place to use as storage, and here this guy's being kind of passive-aggressive with his comments. The reason is actually he wants to buy some of the plots near mine, but no one wants to sell them to him. I can be very petty, so I bought a rundown Lutton van and had it parked there, using that as storage. No planning permission required. And our second story. You want to save money by reducing redundancy in our server infrastructure? You got it. It was in the 1990s when I worked for a software company in Germany. They developed telephone billing systems for major European carriers. The IT infrastructure was based on Windows NT 4.0 workstation and server. Each server had a redundant counterpart to ensure a functioning network all the time. Name a server type, and I'm sure we had it, and always in a redundancy. One day, when I was working in the air-conditioned room for the servers, I saw that the primary domain controller had some problems with the hard drives. It seemed that the SCSI controller was about to give up, and the database server wasn't in a better shape. Immediately, I informed the CIO about it and ordered the needed parts. So far, so good, until the CEO and CFO canceled the order and demanded that every redundant server needs to be deinstalled. I tried to tell him that the current structure is needed and demanded by the major shareholder, and to add insult to injury, I explained to them that canceling the order for urgently needed hardware components to keep the whole network running is irresponsible. Both looked at me like Snape would sneer at Harry Potter and ignored my arguments. They ordered me to do as demanded. I thought to myself, okay, they want me to sabotage the company? Then they'll get what they want. To cover my bases, I asked for a written order, which was given to me within an hour. I made 3 copies of it and sent the original one to the CIO and to the HR together with my resignation and asking to have my overtime to be converted to free days. When the okay came, I started to do as requested, even when I knew that the whole thing would end in a disaster. Every redundant server was shut down, the hard drives formatted, and the devices were returned to the storage facility. At the end of the day, I said my goodbye to my coworkers and left, never to return. I knew what would happen within a week or two, but I didn't care anymore. I'd been put through so much at this company that I was glad to have quit my job. A few of my coworkers had become good friends, and we still have a good connection and help each other once in a while. Well, a few days later, I got a frantic call from the CIO because the whole network was down and nothing was working. The PDC crashed spectacularly, and the database server had followed right after. My reply was, "Sorry, but I don't work for you guys anymore, and I'm on vacation. Good luck and goodbye." I complied with the request made by the upper echelon of the company while maliciously wishing them to be chewed by the major shareholder, which then happened and the company went down pretty fast. And our last story. A tax accountant harassed my family, but I got the last laugh. A few years back, I was filing my taxes and discussing them with my mom. Filing them for that year would be more complicated than usual because I'd enrolled in ACA, aka Obamacare, because my current job didn't offer health insurance benefits, and I'd bought a boat and needed to file a tax form for that as well, which I didn't know much about. My mom insisted that I use her tax accountant, or whatever her position was, to file my taxes. We'll refer to this woman as Marcy. Marcy had been doing her and my stepdad's taxes for them and their business for 8 years, and they had a friendly relationship with her outside of work as well. I had almost all the forms worked out by myself and knew generally what to expect in my return. But I was told she was cheap and thought it would be a good idea to have someone file them and rest assured that nothing got screwed up. I got all my paperwork together and emailed it to my mom so she could send it to Marcy. This included my income tax paperwork, all the ACA tax info for the 1095A, and the sales receipt for my boat. I'm not sure why my mom didn't put me in contact with Marcy directly, but it was probably because she wanted to maintain a professional relationship with this person and didn't want me in my informal millennial ways to damage her image or something like that. Well, a few days later, I get a call from my mom saying that Marcy prepped and filed my return and gave me an estimate of what I'd be getting back. It was short $2,500 of what my estimate came out to, and the figure she gave me was short by the exact amount I calculated I'd get back for my health insurance. For Obamacare, you're allotted a certain amount of credit off your monthly health insurance payments, which you can apply directly to the payments or get back a lump sum on your return, which is what I do. I was due back about $2,500. Well, I figured Marcy must have only done my income taxes and neglected to do the paperwork for my insurance. Her cheap fee for doing this was $500, by the way, which was more than half the amount I was due back, according to her. So this all got me thinking, and I figured she's probably some old baby boomer who only does taxes for old baby boomers who trust the experts and don't ask questions. She had probably never had to do a 1095A before because she mostly deals with wealthy old people with private policies. And she probably assumed I was just some dumb kid who had no idea what to expect on my return. So rather than learn how to file the 1095A, which would have required 15 minutes of effort, she filed my return without it and hoped I wouldn't notice the lack of $2,500. Well, I was right on the money. I called my mom and told her the estimate was wrong, and at first she so blindly trusted this accountant that she refused to believe me and just said, "Well, that's what Marcy said." So then I had her look at a 1095A and enter the figures in herself, and she began to see that I was right. She asked Marcy in an email about it, and the accountant made up some bullcrap about how I wasn't eligible for a return on my insurance, but my mom persisted and showed her the form and figures herself. This was met with a period of silence from the accountant, and after a few days' delay, she admits that she didn't know how and would file an amended return. I was furious at this point because I knew it would mean I'd have to wait an extra 3 to 6 months to get $2,500 of my money, and if I weren't smart enough to know better, I'd just be out $2,500. This person was prepared to just rob some young person of thousands of dollars because she didn't want to learn how to do her job. I just wanted to file the return myself at this point, but my mom insisted Marcy do the job she was paid to do, which I couldn't argue with. Well, it got done, and with no apology or offer of refund. But I wasn't done yet. I'd come to the conclusion that Marcy and her company were just another outdated business that preys on old people with money who are too trusting and don't know any better. I told my mom if she could screw up my relatively basic return so fantastically due to negligence, who knows what she might have screwed up on yours and your businesses. For once, she actually took my advice and went to another firm who looked over years of paperwork and found out she was owed $8,000. She took her business to them and no longer has any professional relationship with Marcy. Well, this entire time I was waiting to leave a nasty review for Marcy and the company she works for. I figured now would be a good time since they no longer do business with my mom. Her company had recently merged and rebranded itself into a new company, which was some kind of accounting and tax law firm, and they had only 2 reviews on Google and Yelp pages, which were obviously by staff or people related to the staff. I write an absolute masterpiece of a nasty review that was a summary of everything I've said so far, and also mentioned that I probably have legal grounds to sue for malpractice, and posted the review on every site I could find. Anyone who read it could tell it was legit, and I posted that knowing it would hurt their fledgling business. Well, I wasn't the only one who knew this, because someone brought my review to the attention of the company's CEO. And my review listed Marcy's true name on it, so the CEO went through the company email database and found out who I and my mom were and confirmed my story to be true based on the email interactions. He was furious and contacted my mom with an apology and asked for my phone number, which she gave him. Unfortunately, my mom was very upset by this too, because she and Marcy had mutual friends and this would cause drama. Well, the CEO demanded that Marcy call me and apologize, but I was refusing to answer the phone because I had nothing to say to her. And where was my apology before I blasted her with a review? She obviously wasn't sorry, at least not yet. After 2 weeks of her calling 2 times a day, the CEO starts calling me too. They'd been spamming my mom with phone calls too when she was mortified and had called me and was almost in tears because the drama was so upsetting to her. Finally, I pick up one day when the CEO calls. He's all polite and says how regrettable Marcy's negligence is and apologizes, and I just come out and say, "Listen, I know why you're calling and why you've been calling for weeks. You want me to take the review down." He basically confirms this, yet doesn't offer me anything other than his sincere apology. I told him it was beyond what an apology could fix, because what Marcy was prepared to do to me wasn't just a little oopsie. What if I was someone struggling to get by, and that $2,500 was the difference between ending up on the streets? I told him the review would stand so long as she remained employed by the company, and told him to have a nice day. Well, rather than fire her, they continued to browbeat my mom with harassing phone calls. I'd made my point, and I'm sure Marcy's reputation with her company was in the toilet, so my next course of action was to get my friends and co-workers together to review bomb the company with 1-star reviews, to the point where I'm sure anyone looking online for someone to do their taxes will look elsewhere. And I know without a doubt that they know where all those reviews came from, but there's nothing they can do now. Anyway, I'm proud of this story because it just shows you what one guy with a laptop can do when a multi-million-dollar company tries to step on you. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.